Welcome to the Above Center Leadership Podcast. I'm Marcy.
And I'm Allison, and this is our chance to learn from leaders who know how to get results while staying above center.
Let's get started. Hello, welcome to another Above Center podcast interview. Today, I'm excited that Chris Greco is here. He's not only the CEO of Waycross Partners, but he's also a good friend. So Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here, Marcy. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we're looking forward to the conversation and learning from you. And I just want to start with sharing a little bit with the audience about the work you do and the teams you lead.
Okay, great. So as you mentioned, I'm the CEO of Waycross Partners, and what we are is we're an institutional money manager. So what that means is most of our clients are large pension funds. Think of like the state of Georgia police officers or Miami Beach Police and Fire or the Teamsters of New York. Those pension funds usually hire multiple money managers, and our specialty is in large cap US stocks or a long short hedge fund. So we're tasked to manage a portion of their assets, and usually it's large dollar amounts. So our audience is everyone from those police and firefighters are on the boards, union trustees as well, all the way up to their research analysts and the consultants that they work with. So our breadth of audience has to be very detailed and very general at the same time. And what that means is then I need a team of investment analysts, and they're all six of them are in Louisville, Kentucky. So those are the people that research the stocks and build the portfolios to become portfolio managers. And then here in the Ponte Vedra Beach office, we have the marketing and client service team. So we want to be best in class at the investment side and best in class in client service as well.
That's great. Well, I can only imagine there's nothing more important than managing other people's money and doing it right. But when it comes to pensions and comes to like the men and women of service that you're working with, that's probably very important for you to do well. And then also like having the right leadership of the team, because there's so many different facets that you touch from the customers to the internal. You want to share a story about maybe a defining moment when you think about your leadership approach and how you apply it at Waycross? Any sort of historical defining moment that helps you navigate how you lead today?
Yeah, I think, as you referenced, the people we work for is so important because my team, we can get lost in the weeds, right? Reading research reports and earnings reports of these companies, and you're looking at decimal points and future forecasts. But what I try and do is remind everybody who we work for and what it's about. And that's the end retiree who's worked for 30 years in public service or driving a truck for UPS, et cetera. And now this money means something to them. And this is what they've worked their careers always counting on. So I try and connect my team with those people. We have on our walls in both offices all the client names, so that reminds you who we work for each and every day. I always share stories when I come back from a lunch or a dinner with a trustee and let the whole team know those stories because I try and connect them as much as possible. And then I also bring my team out to meet the clients. And a new program we're launching is every Monday morning, have one of our clients call in for about 5 minutes and talk about why this is so important to them. And it really, I hope it makes our investment team feel like what they're doing is important and meaningful, not just beating the index as well.
It's so interesting with storytelling and not just being good at telling the stories of what you're hearing from your clients, but also bringing them into the room and
Yes.
having them share the stories because, when employees and especially teams are dealing with stress or teams that are dealing with sales or anything like that, if they know what they do matters, then it's easier for them to show up every day and be the best person they want to be and be successful. Allison, I'm sure you have a question around storytelling. I'd love for you to kind of share your thoughts or a question you may have for Chris.
Well, I actually had a question. You mentioned that you try to be best in class.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a tall order often because so many people, we all want to strive to be the best, but actually being best in class is a whole nother ball game. So how do you lead that way? Like, how do you build that into, let's put it into story. How do you tell stories? How do you encourage your team to tell stories that encourage them to stay best in class?
It's funny. What we just did yesterday morning was an exercise because we have, as I mentioned, we have 2 offices and we have 2 other people working remote. So every Monday morning we have a video call. And what I had everybody is bring to the table on Monday was something that they do to improve their lives. And I left it wide open. It could be health wise, it could be intelligence, it could be relative to our work or not. So everybody shared us something about what they do. And my goal then next week is I'm going to have everybody try something that they heard from their teammate. So if someone makes their bed every morning, that's something, well, someone else try that. If you drink salt water in the morning or you ground your feet in the earth and watch the sunrise, I'd like someone else to try it out. And that's how we can all incrementally get better with, little habits. And what I also find is when you start talking that way about little improvements, it creates the whole vibe of the offices. Everything we do, we should try and get better at it. Another example is we've had a lot of success in what we call a finals presentation. That's when we go in a boardroom and we present what we do, and that board has to vote on us. Usually there's 8 or 10 people in the room, and we have a presentation book. And we won 20 in a row. And recently we said, let's revisit the book and make it better. And I think a lot of firms would not do that. And that's where I want to continue to get better. Is this slide as good as it can be? Does it look as easy to understand as we want it to be? Does it convey the message we think it does? So that I hope bleeds over to my whole team thinking we want to always keep getting better. Don't just sit on what we've got right now.
And that's really interesting because when you say best in class, it's like I've always advocated you don't want to be the best. That means there's only one way to go, and that's down. So you always want to strive for better, right? So
Yes.
it's best in class, but we want to be better than best. So
Yeah. Well, I think, it's funny you say it because on our investment returns, we have top rank returns and we hear that often. But I say, well, we could be the best again next year. We could be the best again the year after that. And we have some wonderful, let's call it competition out there or peers out there who do a great job. But I just want to be the best and I want to be the best version of ourselves. And I think we have the people to actually be the best in the whole industry as well.
That's a perfect segue to ask a question around above center. So for us, when we look at above center leadership, it's really having a clear vision of who you want to be more often, and then choosing to be above center more often than not in every moment. And so as you talk about like just sharing best practice, like what do you do to be better today? And like sharing that with the team and inspiring people just to give that one little inch. Because each time to go above center, it's not usually a huge gap. It's not like you need to save X amount of dollar to then be above center. You could do it at this moment today. So when it comes to like above center leadership, what does that mean to you? And like, how do you think that impacts your team in a way that's more than just business results?
Yeah, it's interesting. I did the one of the studies that you helped us with, Marcy. Can I mention which is one? The
Yeah.
Cloverleaf.
Hmm.
So and what we have in our office are two very different personality types. So the research people live and function and act very differently than marketing people, as you might imagine. So we have two very different sets of personalities. And I think naturally marketing people are outgoing and want to, are just positive. So that's a little easier to work on the above center part. Still, like I mentioned earlier, we still got to make the books better. We still got to make our pitch better. But then the investment team, I want to encourage them and we try and just reinforce the good work that they've done and then also revisit. Like tomorrow morning, we have a meeting with our analysts to look at our portfolios very specifically and just see are there certain risks we're not aware of. Well, let's see how we've done, but make sure we're not being masked by maybe the market lifting us and the rising tide lifts all boats. Well, no, we got to make sure that we're doing well because we know why we've done well. So with that group, we work on a little bit more analytical side, but always reevaluate what we did, why did it work well, and then what should we do going forward. So two different sets of personalities and two different approaches to work with them.
All right, you're making it sound easier than it probably is. How do you help people not be defensive? So when you're kind of looking at the work and you're like, hey, this is good, but it could be better. At some point, the natural instinct of being defensive of like, well, and they want to defend their work instead of learn and grow and learn from it. How do you kind of create that culture or create defensiveness a little bit lower so it's not as much of a barrier.
Yeah, it's something I think about often because I don't mind. I always think my whole career I've thought I would rather you tell me that my intro is not good to a pitch, even though I've done it 50 times before and I might cringe at that, but I know I'm not going to do it poorly the next 5 years. So let's do it right from here going forward. But that's me. So now I've got to put myself in the other person's seat. Do they receive coaching well? How do they look at it? So that's where it is a little more delicate. So part of it is just try and guide them to help be part of the analysis. Like, how do you think this worked? Did this work? Let them start to lead their own answers. Are these number of calls a week the right amount? And then, you start getting into where they're answering the questions first, then they're not thinking that I'm saying something is right or wrong. They're leading themselves to their own answers. So you're right. It's not easy, and not everybody takes notes the same way. I often think of how actors, that's their whole lives. They get critiqued every set, every scene they do, and they're used to it. How can we create that at work? And we try to do it very respectfully. And I think if I could lead by example by letting someone else tell me, Chris, that let's look at it this way, or the way you said that, let's spin it a different way. If I'm accepting of it, hopefully then at least the next person will be accepting of our advice as well. So I try not to do it as a critique. I try and lead the horse to water of their own conclusion.
That's so important. And when we can have our teammates and our peers come to their own conclusions that we were guiding them to, that's a win.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's better because then they feel better about the conclusion as well.
So side note, one of my favorite quotes is people rarely argue with their own conclusion. So you got
Mhm.
to ask a lot of questions
Yes,
to get them
yes.
there. You got to guide them to a way that they can, say what you need them to say. So that's probably one of my favorite quotes.
Oh, sure.
Speaking of quotes, on our podcast, we always like to ask, what is a favorite quote that you use as a mantra or some sort of inspiration to kind of keep you above center? So, Chris, we'd love for you to share your favorite quote.
Sure. Well, I shared it. It's men and women for others. And look at that. I already have a coffee mug that says that. So this is amazing. You guys are amazing at listening to what the people you work with do, and giving something that's going to put a smile on my face. But I went to Boston College, and it's a Jesuit university, and that phrase is taken from the Jesuits back in the 1970s. It's men and women for others. So try and think of service to others, and that's a lot of what we do in our job. We get paid for it, but at the end of the day, you feel better about it if you're engaged, wanting to help others. And I was really fortunate early in my career to have a mentor who's now still my mentor, Matt Bevan, and he's the chairman of Waycross. And I have the pleasure of working for him now the last 5 years. But just having someone that directly impacted my life, and I saw what he gave to me as far as advice and guidance, and a listening ear for 20 plus years, is something I'm so thankful for, that I want to continue to do. I feel the burden to help out the next person. And one of our teammates, actually, one of the things he shared yesterday morning, Guy Pinkman, he talks about how once a week he calls someone that helped him in his life, and he makes sure he reaches out and thanks them. So it's that gratitude, and that he didn't do that because I shared my thoughts. That's something that Guy does himself. So I think there's so many ways to get through life, and just it makes you feel better when you're helping someone else as well. And and you don't expect anything in return. And we're just so blessed and fortunate to live in America, to have this opportunity. And if someone has helped you along the line, we'll try and help two more people. And just imagine how great our whole society would be if everybody did that.
Yeah, it's so nice to hear. And I know I have a little insider's view because we're friends personally here too, but it's like you're creating a culture as a part of a value that you really believe in. Because I know you've got a legacy of helping people and serving and selflessly serving and mentoring. And then I hear about some of your teammates doing the same thing, but they were doing it before they joined. It's just one of the reasons why Waycross is so successful is you keep bringing in people that have the same sort of thought process around purpose and
Oh, yeah.
giving back and then just committing to it. So it kind of creates this culture of accountability to do good things.
Yeah, there's three of us in this office that all met through volunteer boards for youth sports.
Mm.
Unpaid, countless hours, thankless jobs, but I saw something in those people as well that is amazing. Kathleen and Chris are just fantastic, and they took big leadership roles at those positions, and that's how I got to know them. So, and they continue to do that in our neighborhoods today.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, so can I take a dark turn and ask you a question on tough decisions?
Oh, I didn't see this in the prep.
So, you hire the team, you do culturally good things that inspire people to do the right things, serve your clients, be better, show up better. But I know as a CEO, you still have tough decisions that you have to make based on whatever it may be. It could be economic climate, it could be a non-cultural fit. But how, when you're in a point in time and you can share an example from your past where you had to balance making a really tough decision, but still keeping the majority of the team connected to the cause and motivated.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I was thinking of that because I listen to a few podcasts of very positive people. And I'm thinking the same question of them. Like, it's not all positive things,
Right.
people sometimes don't work as hard or don't produce the results you need. So what do you do? And what I try and do is use as many metrics as possible to reinforce the story and engage them early on when I start seeing a direction that we need to change course. And also just check in with them and say, what are you thinking about right now? How do you feel about what you're doing? What do you want to do? Is this making you happy? Is this bringing you joy in any way? And let them just tell me about it, and then I can give them the feedback. Though this is what we need, though this is a business, and Waycross and our clients need X, Y, and Z. How can we get you there? So like this morning, I was just talking with one of our salespeople and said, we've got to move a few clients through the pipeline a little quicker. Let's talk tomorrow about how we're going to do that.
Mm.
So, and I'm part of it. How can I help you with, your pipeline and the process? What do we need to do? So I'm still not just letting them run and fail on their own. I'm responsible to help them get better or improve what they might be lacking at right now. And a lot of that is also bringing in the right training. I've had you train some of my people. I've had other firms train on presentations. So if I identify a weakness, I want to make sure the people are willing to do the work and then leverage the outsiders to help as well.
Chris, it sounds like you've created a very approachable leadership style. And that is one of the best things that anybody in a position of leadership can possibly do. Because, if you're not approachable, you're not a leader.
Mhm.
Really, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Is someone needs to be able to, you want people to follow you, but you have to lead by example and you have to be approachable. And it sounds like you do both of those.
I'm trying. I just, there's other lead by fear or lead with the stick. That's just not me. So I think my teammates see how hard I work and I see how hard they work, and I'm very thankful of them. So hopefully it's working. I don't want to be, when you're the CEO though, it's a lonely world. So I hope I don't have the wrong perception of all this. I'll be curious when they get to see the podcast if they agree or say, "Oh, you've lost it." But what I'm trying my best to lead by example and engage the team as well to be part of their own success.
But that brings me to a question of, where do you go to learn more? How do you grow in your leadership?
I try and leverage what others and listen to others. And still, that's where, like the men and women for others, I try and learn from as many people who are in leadership positions as possible. And the beauty is nowadays with podcasts, that's where I spend a lot of my free time. And I now even do podcasts in the gym. So whether it's reading books about leadership from like a John Gordon or other podcasts, around the country that are on the same topics. Just always try and get a little bit something out of each segment that I listen to, or read books about people who've been successful as well. So I'm just trying to put good things into my mind. I try and put good things into my body, what I eat as well. But I think that's the best way I can learn. And there's so many great resources now. So podcasts and talking to others. I spent a lot of time early in my career. I used to every Friday spend an hour calling my peers around the country who also did a similar job, and just say, hey, what's working for you? What do you, where have you succeeded? Where are your challenges? And try and learn from them as well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, any favorite podcasts that like what was something you've learned recently? Do you want to share anything? Any takeaways from
Yeah,
anything
I
you're
think
working on?
I will reference John Gordon, who just happens to live in our town, which is kind of a funny. Oh, there's my side lighting. During COVID, I was at one of our local suit shops, which is fourth generation, and I went in to check on them because their business was zero. And he's like, Chris, I got to connect you with this John guy. His kids went to Clemson. He played lacrosse like you. You guys would like each other. And he said, it's John Gordon. I was like, I listen to John Gordon's podcasts. I read his books. I'm like, he lives here? He goes, yeah, he lives a mile away from you. So it was great. I got to meet with John, and now we've played pickleball together. And it is something else to see the man who's created this. But he does a lot of good work. His books are very digestible. I use them for team building. We do like a book club as well. But one of the things he was just yesterday, I listened, he had a great podcast. And one of the things was about, winning can be like deodorant. It can mask something that stinks. And that's along the lines of, let's check our books out. Let's look at our sales process. Let's not just rest on our current successes.
Wow, that is actually the most memorable quote I've never heard before. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's so true. Like I think about you win, you guys going back through your last few wins, your last 20 wins, and you're like, okay, we're winning. This is good, but where could it be better?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's that small little ideation that makes you comfortable with like saying it differently the next time that kind of, it really does make a difference. So that's a good quote.
Yeah. That's Bill Parcells, actually,
Oh, it
former.
was? Okay.
Yes. But John referenced it in his podcast. So see, people learning from others.
Yeah, that's true. We always say that coaching and quotes, it's all borrowed wisdom.
Yes. Yes.
A
I love it.
lot of
I love
similarities.
it.
So, well, Chris, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your time. And we always feel like one thing for us that's so nice is when we are with somebody, a leader like you, and we get a chance to learn from you and hear pearls of wisdom from you. So thank you. We appreciate your time today.
All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate the opportunity. And I love my coffee mug, men and women for
It
others.
looks good on you.
Great. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thank you. Allison, I love that conversation.
Oh, it was great. Man, he had a lot of wisdom.
I know. I feel like when I was taking my notes, I was trying to remember my favorite part. And just now, I just like to say, I think it's so innovative that he has those team meetings every week where he's inspiring the people to like share what they do to better themselves and then challenges them to do it. So then that way everybody learns from it. But my favorite part about this meeting, even though that part was really great, is that now he's having a client come in and just talk about the value of their service. So the team kind of can anchor themselves on the importance of what they do and making sure, like, in the beginning, starts off the beginning of the week with like thinking through how they can serve their clients better. I think it's just such a great, simple approach.
When you realize there's a real person on the other end of business, it's no longer just a transaction.
That's so true. That's so true. Well, thanks for doing this with me. This is so fun.
Of course, it's better together.
Better together.
Learn more at therevelcompanies.com.
That was fun.